The rabbit hole went straight on, like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down. So suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. To her great surprise, she ended up tumbling right into a big pile of invitations for the Queen's grand party, very much to the dismay of the poor white rabbit. Welcome, visitors of Wonderland. Down the Rabbit Hole is a quaint little puzzle game made by the Stockholm-based Cortopia Studios. Similar to Moss, Down the Rabbit Hole is played from an observer's perspective. You mainly control the girl with your thumbstick, but you can also interact with the world directly on some occasions. The girl, not actually Alice but Elsa apparently, follows her lost pet Patches right down to Wonderland. Patches is a turtle, that's the only choice. Why would you name your cat Patches? A lizard is acceptable too. On her search for Patches, she meets all the characters you would expect to see in Wonderland. The well-dressed white rabbit, the grinning cat, the smoking caterpillar, the Mad Hatter. But right from the start it is made clear the whole story would culminate in a confrontation with the Queen of Hearts. You, the conductor of the events, sit in the middle of the well. You can move and rotate the world by grabbing the roots that grow out of the earth. As the girl makes its way through Wonderland, she uncovers more and more areas, and the world opens up to you like a giant diorama. Each room is delicately crafted with an amazing attention to detail. I love this. The way the world is presented to the player, it's beautiful. It's absolutely unique. I've never seen anything like this, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate it when creators of these games try to do something new, something that distinguishes them from the flood of generic copy and paste games. As in a real diorama, everything is pretty static though. You can only interact with very little. I wish the environments were a bit more reactive. The gameplay, it's a puzzle game. There's no action, no combat, no platforming. There are some dialogue choices, but they have no impact on story or progression whatsoever. The puzzles are all fairly simple, especially in the beginning you can get into trouble by overcomplicating. The solution is simpler than you probably think. Nevertheless, I enjoyed doing them. They are well designed, just easy. There's a certain appeal to doing easy puzzles. You won't get any satisfaction when you solve them, but it is a somewhat relaxing, meditative activity. That is how the game feels. There are a few exceptions that are a bit more tricky, but they are only tied to collectibles and not necessary for progression. Collectibles. As you are kind of responsible for scattering the invitations to the Queen's grand party, it is your task to collect them. Some are pretty obvious, some are very well hidden. You don't have to find them all, except you want to 100% your achievements. Your progress is tracked in-game, and don't worry if you miss some at first. You can always go back. You can freely jump between completed chapters by going through the looking glass. The game is clearly made for a younger audience. Everything is as tame and unoffensive as it gets. The original novel, though written for children, was so full of deeper meaning, absurdity and dark humor that it was, and still is, much more enjoyed by adults actually than by children. You have nothing like that in Down the Rabbit Hole. The writing is pretty unimpressive. The story tries to teach us that sometimes even members of a minority can be useful or something like that. It's whatever. But there are some terrible puns, I enjoyed those, and the voice acting is pretty good for the most part. I enjoyed the game for the presentation, for the beautiful grand dioramas. I think that is something worth experiencing. Apart from that, I would recommend the game mainly for VR newcomers, or if you want to put your children into VR, this could be a title to consider. If you rush through the game, it can be completed in about 1 hour. When you go searching for all the invitations, it will probably take you about twice the time, so it's short. Keep that in mind before purchasing. "Oh, I've had such a curious dream," said Alice, and she told her sister, as well as she could remember them, all these strange adventures of hers that you have just been hearing about. And when she had finished, her sister kissed her and said, "It was a curious dream, dear, certainly, but now run in to your tea, it's getting late." So she sat on with closed eyes and half believed herself in Wonderland, though she knew she had but to open them again and all would change to dull reality.